Hello everybody, I am Khalil. In this video I will explain the basics of web development in Go. So Go has its own web server. It doesn't need an external one like Apache or Tomcat. To run this one we use the function listen and serve that belongs to HTTP package. The first parameter is the address. We can put, for example, 0, 01, 127 localhost and the port. Now let's set nil here. Let's run this. Okay, we can call this with HTTP client, built-in HTTP client in my ID IntelliJ. You can use a web browser or Postman or any other HTTP client. Okay, this is the response of this line. Okay, it gets 404 because we didn't handle this request like an HTTP request, because we put handler here nil and we didn't add anything else. So we'll fix this. Okay, but first let's see what handler is. Handler from here is an interface that has one function called serve HTTP with this signature. The first parameter is a response writer and the other is a pointer to a request. Okay, see, response writer is an interface, has some function of course, and the request is a struct, has some fields like method will be get, post, bot or the others. The URL this request comes from, the protocol, HTTP protocol with its number 1.0, 1.1 or 2. Okay, so this is the handler. An interface has this function. Okay, this is what the second parameter here can be. So we need to put a handler here. To set this, we can use any type and add a server HTTP method to it. Like for example here, let's say type for example person. Okay, no problem. Struct, let it empty struct, we don't care about it. Or let's say okay, name, string. Then we add server HTTP method. So we say be person serve HTTP with W for response writer and R as pointer, and let's here print the name. If we print f for the response writer b.name. Okay, now let's say person name John. Okay, now we can't send person. Okay, now person is a handler because it satisfies the handler interface with this method serve HTTP. It has serve HTTP method, so it satisfies the handler interface. So now itself is a handler. If we run this and send the request, okay, we see the name John here. Okay, So it worked well. We have person. Person is type of struct person, which has one field called name, and this type, person type, has the server HTTP function as method. Of course, it's method. So now it implements the handler interface by including this method. So now it's a handler and we can use it here. Any type we can add method server HTTP to it. We can use it as a handler here. Okay. So for example, if we want to use another type, we need to add this method to it, and this is not practical in fact. So we'll see a better way. Okay, of course, most handlers or all handlers will be function because they have some logic to do. They take the request, the HTTP request, do some work around and return HTTP response. So this will be inside a function, of course, or method. Okay, so it is better if we have a way that we make a function a handler directly without any other type definition or something like that. So for example, we can say function, let's say square 5 for example, and it has HTTP response writer and request. Okay, and let add W and D. Let's say 5 multiplied 5. Okay. Now, of course, we cannot use this function here because it is not a handler. Okay, we can not add serve HTTP to it because it is not a type. So what we can do is define type, not like this, not a struct, a function type. Okay, we can say type handler function, handler func, let's say, and it is a func. It's underlying type, a func that have response writer and request pointer to request. We can remove the W and R because it's just a definition. Now we have type called handler func, which is underlying type is func that has two parameters, the same two parameters of serve HTTP function. Okay, why we can do this? Because functions in Go is also types, like any other types, like structs, maps, integers, whatever. So we can make type from them. Now we can say h and a handler func here. Okay. Okay, so we have a type. We added the method serve HTTP to this type. It's clear as we did with the struct type here. Now we know handler func type is a function. Okay, so we can call it with this W and R, right? Yeah, because it takes this from here. It takes W and R. W and R comes from here. Okay. So now we know that square 5 has the same parameters. So what we can do is we can say handler function. This is a type, okay? It is not a function itself, it's a type. And when we put square 5 here, what do? We cast. We don't call handler function because handler function our handler func, because handler func is a type, it's not a function. So when we put this, we cast square 5 to handler func type, and this handler func type has the method serve_HTTP. So it converts square 5 to handler. What we did here is same like, for example, integer 64 5. Okay, we cast the integer 5, just integer 5 to integer 64. It's casting. The same we did to square 5 function. We casted it to handler func type. Okay, we don't need this, and this will work. And it has its own work, okay? So when I run this, I get this. That's fine. It works as should be. Okay. So what we did again? We defined a type called handler func from the underlying type func, which it's a function that takes two parameters. Okay, the same parameters, of course, of serve_HTTP function. Okay. And inside serve_HTTP function, we call the handler type, which is a function underlying function itself here. Okay, I said that here it is a type, it's not a call function, but it seems like we call it here a function. Okay, because the underlying type is function. We call this function, in fact. Okay, it's a type, but of course the underlying type is function. So when we call this function, and that's clear because when we call it with response writer and with this, a pointer to a request struct. Okay. So now we can add any other function, for example, func welcome, the same, of course, response writer and the request, and it's print throw w welcome to go. Okay, we can put it here instead of that square 5. We can run it, and it doesn't work. Okay, let's see why. Welcome. Okay. Yes. Welcome to go. Okay. So we can put any function in this form that it has this signature here. Okay. Again, we convert or cast it to handler function, which has the serve_HTTP. So it's like we did a middle type that we can convert any other function or method that has the same signature as serve_HTTP function to connect these other functions to a handlers. Okay, to be handler by this casting. Okay. Okay, now I hope this was clear because it's basic concept. Of course, if we see, let's say that, okay, let's put http.handler func. Okay, now this is not our handler func type, it's inside http, but it's same as we did. Okay, it's the same. It's a type handler func, function response writer and pointer to request, and it has the serve_HTTP method. Okay, and we put here it is if here for function, and we call it as we did. It's the same. Okay, of course we don't need to do this. I did it just for explanation, but it is already existed in HTTP package. Okay. Now let's see if we want to square any integer number, not just 5. What can we do? We can include this function, or let's say this number. Okay, and take this and let's in integer. Okay, so to use this function here, it must return a handler or handler function type. Okay, so we can say handler func type, and here return func with the same signature. What it will do inside it's this n and n multiply n. Okay, so this is a closure. We know that functions can include other function inside it. We send this parameter as integer, and inside it we'll return a function that use that parameter, the outside parameter, inside it. Okay, so now I can say a square number here and send anything, for example 50. If I run it, okay, it works. So we can send anything, we can send the date, it's the same. Fine. So we did it like this. This is the function that accepts an integer value that we want to square. It returns a handler function type. It can be a handler function. We can put this directly, they are same. Okay, and return that function that do this work. Okay, so this is how we send any parameter we want to and return a handler using this parameter. Okay, we have something else here called middleware. Middleware is a handler, we can say a handler function that accepts another handler function and do some works before calling the second handler function. Let's say, let's see this func. For example, let's do something. Let's say log, and this log takes a handler function. Okay, let's see func. Okay, have this and return the same. We can put this here, but I will put a handler function, and of course I can take handler function instead of this and put it here. Okay, and I will say return func. Yes, okay, thank you. And let's say look, we didn't define it, so no problem. Let's say a writer here, logging before calling the next function. Okay, we can say here next, of course we need to define it, next function, and then we say next with the writer and the request. Okay, now how we call this? Let's remove this. I will say log and then welcome, no problem, we can say welcome. Okay, now log is a function that has its parameter is another function, handler function type. It's a function because of this underlying type, which is a function, and returns a handler function, and now inside it returns this handler function func with the writer and the request pointer. And we did this before. We can say this belongs to this function. Okay, it's inside the return function, but it does not belongs to the second or next function. Okay, this is next function. Next function here is the welcome function, is the next function here from here. Okay, this one welcome will be the next here, and log will accept it, will do its work, then we'll call the next function, which is welcome, and that's it, because log returns a handler function. It's a handler here. Okay, this is handler the function type which has self HTTP, so it is okay. Let's run it and test it, and okay, it doesn't work. Okay, let's run it again. 5. Logging before calling the next function. Then this happened from welcome to go. Let's add this here to make a new line. Okay, this is the first line from the log, and this is from the welcome function. Okay, so this is called middleware that do something in middle. It could be before the exit or after it. It doesn't matter, but now it is a handler function that accepts another handler function. You do some logic and then call the nextset or the second handler function. We can chain functions like this. We can add another function that takes another function. I mean, we can do 3 or 4 or 5 functions or more as we want. Okay, so this is a middleware. It could be confusing at the first time, but I hope it's clear and easy here. This is welcome is best here for this function, so it will do its work and then calls the other function. Okay, fine. Now let's see. Okay, or let's print the URL we request. Let's put it here. Let's say r.url.bat okay. Welcome to go, and the bat is just a slash, but let's say here bat is okay. So bat is slash. If we say go, will be slash go. If we say anything, okay, is cool, will be slash go slash is cool. Okay. So it works the same. It works the same. It do the same work, whatever the URL or the bat was. And of course, in practical situations, we have different URLs, different bats, and we want to handle each one differently. So what we can do, we can here, for example, take this. Let's say bat equals this from one to the others. I want just the bat. I don't know. I want anything after the slash. I don't want the slash. Then I can say switch case bat. For example, if it was go, let's say welcome to go. Of course, go is a string. If we guess a square 5, for example, let's say okay. Again, it's inside string. Okay, now if we run this, okay, it didn't work because we don't have go. We have go and slash is good. Now okay, welcome go and welcome to go. Let's add here. Okay. Fine. Okay, go and welcome to go. If I say square 5, it will be another response, and that's what we want. Okay. But this switch case and this logic is not practical, in fact, and Go has something else called ServeMux. Okay, we can do this like this. Okay, max, which is multiplexer that takes or handle different paths or different URLs in you ServeMux. Okay, of course it belongs to HTTP. I will remove this our code because we don't need it. It's already built in Go. Okay, for this I can say HTTP handler, HTTP and HTTP. Okay, now we have max. What we do is we call handle. We set the path here, for example, welcome, and we give it the handler function, or the handler function, the function we want. Now it's welcome, so we just put welcome here. Okay, but welcome is not a handler itself, so we need to cast it like this, handler func, as we did above, like here. Okay, we can add another URL or path. Yeah, let's say square 10 5. We have it. Okay, we don't have it. We have a square number here. Okay, we will not get in, so I can put it here, function, of course, with the writer, response writer, and request here. Okay, and say here the same thing or same logic. Okay, the same if this function is not a handler, it doesn't have the serve HTTP function, so we need to do this. Now it's okay. Of course, here I will put the max. Okay, why I can put max here? Because max has its own serve HTTP. Okay, so it's a handler itself. Okay, now let's run it. Okay, I have syntax here. Now, okay, I have square 5, it works. Let's put welcome and welcome. I don't find it. Welcome. Okay, the function welcome. Welcome says self. I don't want this. Okay, I will remove this. Just welcome to go. So this is how we use ServeMux. We define a variable from it, and then we add any function we want. If we don't want to add this here, for example, like this, we can put it here, handler func. Okay, it's handle, only handle func. Okay, and here the same, handle func. and we don't need this anymore. Okay, so itself has casting inside it. If we go here, we see this. It casting this handler, which is just a function. It's not a real handler, not yet, but we because of this, which is a type handler function, func. So it itself casting it. So we don't need to put it here. This will do the work we want. Okay. Fine. But here we defined our ServeMux, but there's a default one from HTTP. We can say HTTP. Okay, let's put it. We don't need this. We can say HTTP handle func, and the same here. Okay, so this is default function built in HTTP package, and they do work with the default ServeMux, which called default ServeMux in the HTTP package. And we here to call that default ServeMux, we put nil here. So listen and serve knows that we are dealing with the default ServeMux, and it will work. No problems. Okay. So I hope this was clear. We saw how to make types from function type with the same signature to serve HTTP function. Then we see how we did a function that accepts any number to square and returns another handler func. And also we did some work about middlewares, and finally we used multiplexers, ServeMuxes, to handle different paths. Thank you.